Today we've got the pleasure of being in the lovely offices of DPS with Paul Beaumont, Chief Executive, and Paul Beynon, MD of the business, and we've been doing some recruitment videos with you both. Gentlemen, just tell us the history of DPS, because it's quite an interesting story. How was it formed? Where is it today? Where are you looking to be in the future?
Business was formed in 1979, family business, classic sort of generic fruit importers, and has existed ever since. Been supplying into the UK retail wholesale market scene and latterly into some food service. Probably in the late 90s we became more specialist around certain more difficult products, principally stone fruit. We've added to that portfolio with exotics, cherries, kiwi, that type of thing. And that's really where we are today. So relatively successful. Seem to know what we're about, run our supply chains quite efficiently.
Nice.
And we have a good team of people.
And Paul, how long have you been in the business now?
14 years actually, 14 years next month.
Excellent.
So yeah, a long time.
And Paul, in that respect, you're a bit of a newbie, but not within. How long have you been within the business?
4 years,
Okay.
but working in the industry 14 years since.
Okay. So I presume you've seen some quite fundamental changes coming from a salad, vegetable background to a fruit business?
Yes, that was probably the reason why I made the change, really, was to see something that was completely different. Started very much working for sort of large grower, packer, sellers, and wanted to try the other side of the coin, if you like, which is the importation, buying and selling products and managing the relationships between the customers and the growers. And it's been an interesting transition, and they are both very different. Because
you mentioned quite a lot in the recruitment videos that we're doing, the diversity that you've seen in this business in comparison to the other businesses that you've previously worked with. And do you think within the DPS model that's always going to be the same, or do you think it's going to change, or do you think it's going to get more myopic?
Well, taking the 2 points in turn there, certainly coming from a salad or veg background, what you tend to have is a much clearer, more simplified supply chain. Certainly cost of production, less sources, continuity are sort of the cornerstones of those businesses, whereas on the fruit side of things, we're dealing with a much more diverse and disparate supply base, where you're buying and selling from. You're not essentially bringing your product from abroad and selling it to someone here. You are buying and selling that product. And I think what's so interesting there, and the changes that I've seen, is that the sort of macroeconomics of the world are dictating that a number of our suppliers or suppliers around the world aren't seeing the UK as the market it once was.
Yeah.
And our competition is much wider now. Our competition isn't an importer necessarily down the road supplying another retailer. It might well be another country such as Brazil or China or Russia, taking our country's product for want of a better word.
Okay, and Paul, I remember when we first started working together 15 odd years ago, that the fundamentals of the business are roughly the same. You're still a stone fruit importer.
That's the predominant business we're involved in, yeah. I mean, we are, but we're also involved in various joint ventures around the world now to facilitate better IP, to tier our products, to get better varieties, to take out some of the less efficient supply chains, particularly around air freight. Looking at local, ethical and sustainable elements to our supply chain.
Yeah.
We've recently done a joint venture in the UK on stone fruit, which is quite exciting, that could work. It's relatively high risk. If it works, it will be very good for both parties. If it doesn't, we'll have a lot of expensive firewood to sell, but these are the risks that we have to do. And I think that's fundamentally where our business is changing, if you like, is that just being an importer, not adding any value, just trading product is, yes, it's part of our business, but more importantly, we're moving towards a more sustainable business that is more linked and integrated with all elements of the supply chain. Be that from growing, the supply chain network, the packing, the processing, the intellectual property, the breeding, all of these elements are incredibly important to what we do now.
Understood. The one thing I always learned about produce is the only thing you can predict is change. So the last 10 years, you've kept to that core value of the business. You've had all these distractions in the way the direct sourcing models that have come in from various directions. When we're sat here in 5-10 years' time, what are your predictions? Where do you think that the produce industry is going to be a whole?
I think it's still a good business. I think it's all about adding value. It's all about what are we bringing to the party. You know, if we've got something that actually delivers fundamental change through enhanced quality, enhanced service, enhanced margin, pricing, whatever it might be, those are the elements that we must focus on. I think, you know, the direct sourcing model has a place in certain areas. In certain areas, it may not be as effective within certain other categories. I think the big challenge for the industry, for me, is about investment. It's about people, getting new people into the industry, particularly from a graduate perspective.
Okay.
And I think it is about, you know, capital investment, be that in process, machinery, intellectual property, growing.
Okay.
These are the key things that will make a difference and really move the business forward in a more positive way.
Okay, so Paul, on that basis, do you see that there's an issue in respect to the younger generation coming through into the sector, or do you think everything's rosy in the garden? Do you think we've got enough people coming through, and so all the fresh produce businesses that you've either worked with in the past or obviously worked with, do you think there's that good flow of candidates coming through?
I mean, my own specific background is I probably wouldn't have been working in fresh produce if I hadn't been living in Cambridgeshire. So it was more about geography. So in answer to your question, I don't think that this particular part of the industry, maybe the big food companies, the branded food companies, people understand them from universities. I don't think it's well known outside agriculture, to be honest. You hit most of the people that I've come across early in the industry came from an agricultural background, whether it be education or their family, and that's really how they ended up into it. But that's not always the case, but I don't think the industry does itself justice in communicating itself to new people coming into it.
Okay, and that's a frustration we have. There's 35,000 unemployed graduates from summer 2011 still out there. You Paul, rightly mentioned about the brands. Waitrose has 35,000 graduate applications every year. You look at the opportunities within the fresh produce sector, yourself, the people that we place continuously, but we just don't seem to be an attractive sector in that respect. What's the answer?
That's a very, very interesting question, difficult question. I think if we can engage more effectively with universities and get them to understand what the sector is about, I think there's a real mine of good quality people. I mean, for example, we just recruited a guy who's got a 2-1 in economics from Reading to do purchase ledger, and he's on the books of various accounting placement organisations. Really talented, really clever guy. Would never have ever have thought of looking at fresh produce as a career. So how do we get past it? I think we have to engage with the universities. I think we have to put some money into it. So I think we actually have to invest in some sort of programme or some sort of communication plan to actually get people to say, look, this is actually quite a challenging sector. It's quite an interesting sector. It's incredibly culturally diverse, and it's hugely opportunistic. If you're good at what you do within this sector, you can rise very quickly through the ranks and really make a contribution to the businesses.
It's not the opportunities that are the problem, it's kind of the communication to the individual. So I think the opportunities for anyone who's in it are clear and are there to be seen. We've got to work with, I think that some of the agricultural institutions do a good job of communicating to their people, the various schemes, the MDS schemes, that type of thing. But outside of that, into the colleges and universities that aren't agricultural based, it's next to non-existent. Okay,
but then when I go back north, I'm going to go through King's Cross Station, I'm going to go into an eatery. Am I going to see any of your products in there or any other fresh produce companies' products in there? No, I'm going to see branded. We're having this ongoing dip of consumption of fruit and veg. I'm probably trying to make this too simplified, but if we could raise the public profile of the goodness of fruit and veg, then that's going to go all the way through families, as well as graduates, as well as universities, and we might see new blood coming through.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the biggest challenges we have is that 99% of what we supply is on the supermarket side is own label. So there is no, our brands, if you like, as a company, are business-to-business brands, not consumer ones. So there's no consumers that are young people that are seeing things that they just see the supermarket brands, which I guess is a big challenge for us. Okay, and
then Paul, just picking up on something that we discussed earlier prior to the filming, that you are really attracted to individuals for your business who are entrepreneurial. autonomous.
Well, I think our culture is entrepreneurial. I think what we're looking for is people who are self-starting, who actually have ideas, are willing to take risks, willing to take decisions, and really make their contribution count. I think, you know, we would say it's not a water culture cooler. You know, if you just want to hang out at the water cooler and chat and kill the day, then it's not really what our business is about. Because, you know, we've got people here who, I think Paul mentioned it to you before, we started off on the shop floor, you know, packing fruit, doing QCs, and now directors of the company. Because you know, they've literally have proven fantastic worth and added huge value within our organisation. So for us, it's not about a particular individual being entrepreneurial, but if you'd like to be in an entrepreneurial culture and you think you can thrive within that, then really that's the sort of people we're looking for.
Got it.
And you know, it's important for us to have that ability to recognise opportunity, but not just recognise it, but actually execute and deliver it. That's the key. You know, that execution for us. You know, finding people who can execute ideas is absolutely key for us and crucial.
That's what makes a good person, I think, is seeing the idea, but also executing it, making it happen, and taking the people within the organisation, but also the customers and the suppliers with you.
So find the right people. Your business will have a bright future. I think, gentlemen, you're a very good indication as to the talent, if it's okay to say, within the fresh produce sector, and the ongoing success of
not that bad, is it, mate?
and the ongoing success of DPS. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to doing another set of these videos in 2-3 years' time. Thank you very much.